their aunts and uncles what they were up to.
I could not figure out whether Claire legitimately had an actual physical, misplacement in her uterus. Like, that is a thing that can happen. But also, weird non-problems with women's uteruses were often part of medical quackery in the
Yes.
especially 19th century. And I could not figure out which one of those two things that was. In September of 1910, the two sisters were visiting Victoria, British Columbia, and they saw an ad for Linda Hazard's sanitarium in a Seattle newspaper that their hotel had on hand. Claire wrote to Hazard for more information, and Hazard forwarded a copy of her book and a brochure about the sanitarium.
The Williamsons thought that Hazard's sanitarium sounded ideal for them. They envisioned this as an idyllic retreat where they would be sustained by delicate broths made from locally farmed ingredients. So they kept up a correspondence with Hazard that lasted through February of 1911.
They had originally planned to leave the United States bound for Britain and Australia, but they decided instead to stop first in Seattle and undertake Hazard's cure.
When they arrived in Seattle on February 26th of 1911, they found that the Institute was not ready to receive patients yet. Hazard instead got them an apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill, and they each agreed to pay her $60 per month for Monday to Friday treatments that would include, in the words of documents included in Hazard's appeal, quote, massage or rubbing, the abstaining from food except fruit juice, asparagus water, and vegetable broth with a small bit of butter therein about as large as the thumbnail, a warm bath every day or practically every day, and an enema from 4 to 6 quarts of warm water each day.
This diet also was not the farm-fresh, locally sourced fare that they had been hoping for. It was mostly made from canned tomatoes.
The sisters went from their apartment to Hazard's Seattle office Monday to Friday as agreed, from February 27th until about the 15th of March. And at that point, they became too weak to be able to leave their apartment, so Hazard came to them, giving them their multi-hour enemas in the bathtub, which was fitted with canvas supports once their treatments made them too weak to stand.
As the two sisters got weaker, Hazard started to ask them about their family, their money, their jewelry, their legal affairs. She took all of their jewelry and their personal papers with her when she left one day, telling them that it was not safe to keep such things in their apartment.
The Williamson sisters' treatment in Seattle went on until April 22nd, 1911, when they were transferred to Olalla, and it still wasn't a sanitarium so much as a space in the Olalla home. Their health at this point was precarious enough that they each were carried to a separate ambulance by stretcher, and once they got to the Sound, they were taken across in a private boat. Before they left, though, Hazard's attorney arrived at the dock and got Claire to sign a will that left an annuity to the sanitarium, as well as documents that signed all the money in her bank account over to Hazard.
At this point, the two sisters reportedly each weighed only about 70 pounds.
After their move to Olalla, their health, of course, continued to deteriorate. They started to lose consciousness during their massages and their enema treatments.
One of them sent their childhood nurse, Margaret Conway, an odd telegram on April 30th of that year, asking her to come and visit them in Olalla. She was alarmed by this telegram and worried for their safety, so she left Australia and took a ship to Vancouver. It would take her until June to get to Seattle.
Meanwhile, in mid-May, Hazard expressed doubt that Claire Williamson would recover, not from the treatment, but from the ailments that the treatment was supposedly purging from her body. And on May 19th of 1911, Claire did indeed die.
Hazard waited 3 days to inform their uncle, John Herbert, who lived in Portland and who she already knew how to contact, that his niece had died. At this point, she and her sister each weighed about half of what they had before starting Hazard's treatments.
On May 27th, Hazard filed a petition to be made Dora's legal guardian, claiming that she was an invalid and mentally incompetent to manage her own affairs. This petition was granted.
Also in May, Lewis E. Rader, who was the person who had owned the property that this sanitarium was built on, also died. He, as we said, had been a patient of Hazard's. He had been staying in a hotel near Pike Place Market in Seattle, but when the police tried to question him about what was going on at his old Wilderness Heights property, Hazard moved him somewhere else in secret, where he later died.
When Margaret Conway
Created using Powtoon.